Hey, what's going on, guys? Welcome back to the channel. In today's video, we're going to be breaking down everything you need to know about the brand new Miramar Remaster 3.0. We're going to be covering the new features like the Sandstorm, the Zipline, the usable gas stations, and we're going to cover all of the key points of interest that they've added, moved, or completely removed from the old Miramar. Then at the end, we'll go over some performance changes, new weather effects, and just some general tips that you need to know before you play it this week on PC and next week on console. Now, I did break the Miramar map down into 4 quadrants to help us review it, Q1 through Q4. But before I go over the POIs, let's talk about the new features being added. First and foremost, the Sandstorm. This replaces the terrible red zone in Miramar, and it works very similarly to the blizzard zone in Vikendi. It actually moves dynamically across the map, and you can see it move on your 2D map and of course in the world in 3D. Visually, the map looks fantastic. It really does look like you're inside of a sandstorm, and the audio is really well done. Now, when you're inside the sandstorm, there's basically 2 layers. There's like the outer layer and the inner layer. If you're on the outer layer, your visuals are blocked, but you can still run around and move and kind of just act normally. If you're in the center of the sandstorm, however, your scopes are going to be fogged up, you won't be able to sprint, and you will take damage just like you do in the blizzard zone on Vikendi, so keep that in mind. Next up are going to be the zip lines on Miramar. Now, these will work very similarly to how they do on Destin, but these are going to be a little bit different because they're actually horizontal zip lines as opposed to vertical up and down the sides of a building. Now, a couple of keynotes about the zip line. There's going to be 2 zip lines at every location. Each can only go in one direction. Once you jump onto the zip line, you have to hit the W key to start your movement or departure. Once you start moving on the zip line, your buddies can jump on the same zip line with you. They do not have to wait until you're completely off the other end. Number 2, you can actually pull out a pistol or an SMG and shoot from the zip line. However, you will not be able to reload your weapon. So you basically get 1 magazine's worth of ammo until you either jump off in the middle of the zip line and parachute down, or you wait until you get off at the very end, and then you can of course reload and use your weapons as normal. Now, another quality of life feature change is the usable gas stations across the map. There are going to be some locations that have workable gas stations. Some are actually still busted down and they look like they're abandoned. Those obviously do not work. To use the gas station, you simply drive next to the fuel pump, look at the fuel pump, and then hold the F key, whatever your interaction key is. And be aware, if someone shoots the fuel pumps, it only takes 1 bullet. They'll start to fume and then they'll explode very shortly thereafter. All right, now moving on to the map POI changes for Miramar. Starting in Q1, Alcantara is seeing a southerly shift with a complete new design layout. New roads have been added, and ruins and trailer park have been completely removed. And per the PUBG dev comments, they hope that by moving Alcantara closer to the center of the map, their goal is to retain its original charm while increasing its efficiency and making it a more appealing location for players. In addition to these couple of changes, you will also notice the new zip line that has been added on the north hilltop right above El Pozo. Now, staying inside Q1, Power Grid also sees a couple of changes with this update. Primarily, it'll be the surrounding areas of Power Grid that see the biggest change to the terrain, the hilltops, the rock edges, and the cliffs. Some of their heights have been adjusted, but some of them have been removed completely, and extra cover has been added along the smaller dirt roads. So hopefully that'll make this area much more of a fair offensive and defensive position. In addition to the terrain changes, Power Grid also has a large zip line added all the way from Power Grid to Graveyard. Moving on to the Q2 section of Miramar, Campo and Militar sees a big change. A lot of the compounds and structures have been changed or removed completely. A new shooting range has been added, and it's been shifted over and completely removes the old Torre drop. In Campo and Militar's absence, the terrain has been slightly modified with some new buildings and warehouses scattered throughout, still making it a very potentially interesting in-game scenario if the circle does shift northeast. Next up, we see water treatment with a nice quality of life update. A lot of the clutter has been removed from water treatment. New warehouses have been added, promising to be loot rich for you and your squad to drop. A new road has been added, and the surrounding terrain has been improved, making it for a much more safe and efficient loot spot for you and your teammates. The last update to Q2 of Miramar is going to be the removal of the junkyard and the addition of the brand new POI truck stop. Not only is the truck stop going to be loot rich, it also has a working fuel station, multiple roads to enter and exit the city, and a zip line connecting it to El Hazar, allowing for early rotations between both compounds. In addition, the surrounding terrain for both areas have been significantly changed, allowing for much more fair and tactical team fights. The next sector of the map brings us to Pecado, a famous hot drop from Miramar, which luckily remains mostly unchanged with the exception of the northern cliffs and hilltops. Very similar to Power Grid, the cliffs and hilltops have been leveled, a lot of them have been removed altogether, and the overall terrain is much more friendly for vehicles, allowing for better traversal up and down the hill. And specifically, they reduced a lot of the sight lines that you would have from on top of the cliff looking down. That way it's not just a complete death valley, if you will, when you're trying to move from Power Grid to Pecado or vice versa. Now, moving more westwardly, we saw Ladriera completely replaced with the Brickyard, a brand new POI. Now, the amount of loot in this area is going to be pretty much unchanged, except with the addition of one big warehouse. The big thing you'll see here is that they've added a zip line crossing from the most western mountain to the eastern mountain of Brickyard. This hopefully will make for those in-game scenarios much more manageable if the circle does make a hard shift one way or the other. Moving eastward, we see that Chuma remains mostly unchanged. However, the surrounding terrain and hills have gotten changed a little bit, offering better coverage, vantage points, a little bit more dips and valleys, and more rocks and tree cover. Now, moving down to the southern island, this is probably the biggest change you'll see on the new Miramar, with 2 additional zip lines being added connecting the north to south islands, 1 brand new bridge equaling 3 total bridges to cross from north to south, and completely changing the peninsula and POIs that are available. Starting with Prison, it's been moved eastwardly, shifted around, added new buildings and cover, and completely replaces the Minas del Sur drop. Further east, you have a brand new POI, Portana, which is supposed to be a lively hustle and bustle of market and plazas, offering you and multiple squads plenty of loot opportunities and hopefully great rotation opportunities for early or late game scenarios. Moving to the last sector of the map, Los Leones sees a nice quality of life improvement here, hopefully to improve FPS and reduce clutter. In addition to that, they did remove the center church with those long surrounding sweeping buildings, and a lot of the buildings on the outskirt edges of the city have been removed or reduced to smaller buildings as well. Moving further south, we have a brand new POI, the Resort. Conceptualized from an abandoned retreat, the resort is majestically perched on a hill overlooking the sweeping southern seascape. Now, this is going to be breaking up a lot of the open fields and the monotony down there on the southern part of the northern island, hopefully making for interesting early hot drop opportunities and more tactical and better to play late game situations. In addition to the new POI, 3 connecting roads have been inserted, allowing for easy escape down to the southern road, to the Los Leones caves, or directly to the Los Leones city itself. Moving up north, we see Impala getting some quality of life updates as well. The layouts of the buildings and the compounds themselves remain largely unchanged, but the surrounding terrain and hilltops have been adjusted to offer more cover and easier traversal. Last but not least, we see La Bendita being transformed to a brand new POI, Cantera. Cantera's reimagining is as it's a facility that processes, stores, and manages resources required for the construction of other buildings and factories in Miramar. The entire layout has been reconfigured and the terrain has been enhanced, providing a more fair and tactical approach from either side of the crater. All right, guys, let's wrap up this video with some gameplay showing off the brand new weather setting that you can get on Miramar 3.0, and it's called Hazy. And thankfully, this is nothing like the fog setting. This weather setting actually looks fantastic on Miramar. And to be honest, I think any of the weather settings look great on this new Miramar. The designers and artists killed it with this revamp. I hope you guys do enjoy it as much as I did. Let me know in the comments below what you think about the new Miramar, the changes, the POIs. Is there anything different that you wish that they would have done? And lastly, I'll just touch on the performance. Keep in mind, I'm playing on the test server, 4K, full ultra settings, and my performance, you can see in the top left corner, has been very, very stable. I was really impressed with the new Miramar. Even in smoke grenades, during the new Sandstorm, using the zip line, zipping back and forth across, I didn't have really any big FPS dips, except when I would go to like Los Leones or Minas, the bigger towns, that of course is going to get your FPS, 10 to 20% decrease just because of all the buildings it has to render. So like I said, at the end of the day, I was thoroughly impressed with the visuals, the performance, and just really how the map plays. I really hope to see Miramar come back as a permanent rotation and replace Sandhawk. Sound off down below. Let me know what you guys think, and I'll see y'all in the next video. Peace.